Dr. Samir Kapoor seemed like the embodiment of success. To his neighbors in suburban Toronto, to colleagues at the hospital, and even to his family back in India, he was the picture of stability. His life was carefully curated, a flourishing medical career, a charming home, and a wife, Anika Kapoor, who stood by him with unwavering loyalty. Every detail, from the pristine lawn of their two-story house to the polite waves they exchanged with neighbors, radiated accomplishment and harmony. Anika had left behind a promising career in India to support Samir's dreams abroad, adjusting to a life where his long hospital hours came first. She cooked their favorite meals, hosted community events, and maintained the home they shared. Her patience and devotion were the quiet backbone of their picture-perfect life, yet little did she know that Samir wore a mask. Beneath his polished exterior, a restless ambition pulsed, a craving for attention and power that extended far beyond his career. Born and raised in Delhi, Samir had grown up in a strict but loving household. His parents had poured every ounce of their energy into his education, proud when he left for Canada to study medicine. With a steady job at a reputable hospital, a beautiful home, and a supportive wife, Samir had built the foundation of a seemingly flawless life. But foundations built on secrets have a way of crumbling. At the hospital, Samir was respected, admired, and trusted. Patients praised his calm authority, colleagues envied his discipline. At home, neighbors described him as polite, reliable, and courteous. Yet while everyone saw the man of integrity, none could glimpse the dual life he led, one of charm, secrecy, and unquenchable desire. He thrived on the thrill of living behind a mask, seamlessly switching between devoted husband and secret seeker of forbidden indulgence. And it was this hidden life that would eventually unravel everything he had built. Samir's carefully constructed life had cracks, and those cracks began to widen when Tara Mehra entered the picture. Tara was a nurse at the hospital, young, confident, and striking, known for her sharp wit and magnetic presence. She wasn't just another staff member to Samir. She was everything missing from his orderly, predictable life at home. Where Anika represented stability and devotion, Tara was unpredictable, bold, and intoxicating. What started as professional admiration soon turned into a dangerous fascination. Casual conversations in corridors evolved into stolen moments after hours. A simple cup of coffee became long drives in the dark, and within months, their connection crossed the boundary from curiosity to forbidden intimacy. Tara believed in the promise of a deeper connection, convinced that Samir would eventually choose her over the wife he supposedly loved. But Samir had no real intention of leaving Anika. For him, Tara was an indulgence, a thrilling escape from the monotony of domestic life, a private validation of his power and charm. He became a master of deception, creating plausible excuses for late nights, unexplained absences, and sudden changes in routine. To Anika, every excuse seemed reasonable. After all, the life of a physician was unpredictable. She never suspected that behind his seemingly dedicated hours was a secret world, one that would soon spiral beyond control. Tara's obsession grew as her expectations intensified. She wanted clarity, a commitment that Samir had no intention of giving. She pressed for answers, her curiosity gradually sharpening into frustration. Samir, ever the smooth manipulator, reassured her with vague promises, insisting that his marriage was hollow, that he was trapped, that she was different. Yet each reassurance was hollow, designed to delay the inevitable confrontation. Meanwhile, Anika's intuition began whispering warnings. Small things, traces of unfamiliar perfume, hushed phone calls, unexplained expenses niggled at her consciousness. She quietly began keeping a notebook, cataloging his absences and excuses, mapping the inconsistencies in his carefully curated life. She didn't confront him yet, preferring to watch and wait for confirmation. But the notebook became a mirror reflecting the cracks she had sensed for months. Samir moved through these dual worlds with confidence. To the hospital, he was the charming, composed doctor. To Tara, he was the passionate, confiding partner. To Anika, he remained the loving, devoted husband. Yet, even as he juggled these realities, the walls he had built began to weaken. Tara's persistence and Anika's growing suspicion created tension that threatened to expose the truth. The illusion of control, which Samir clung to so desperately, was already slipping. The delicate balance of Samir's double life began to falter the day Arjun Varma arrived in Toronto. Arjun, an old college friend from Delhi, had always admired Samir's brilliance. Their reunion was filled with laughter, nostalgia, and warm reminiscence of days gone by. To Samir, it was just a friendly visit. To Anika, however, one careless remark during dinner planted a seed of doubt she could not ignore. Arjun casually mentioned seeing Samir at a downtown cafe with a young woman during a previous visit. He assumed it was a colleague and let the memory drift, but the words lingered in Anika's mind long after the conversation ended. At the dinner table, she smiled politely and brushed the comment aside, yet deep down, unease took root. That night, Anika lay awake, her mind replaying the memory over and over. She began connecting dots she had previously ignored, the faint scent of perfume not her own, hushed phone calls that seemed unnecessary, and a series of unexplained credit card charges. Things that had once been easily dismissed now formed a troubling pattern. Quiet by nature, Anika decided to gather evidence before confronting Samir. Her small notebook became her secret confidant. She meticulously noted his departures, the excuses he gave, and every inconsistency she could spot. What began as a tool to organize her restless thoughts quickly transformed into a record of growing betrayal. Meanwhile, Tara was growing restless too. What had started as a thrilling affair had evolved into something deeper for her. She wanted clarity, a commitment Samir could not and would not give. She began pressing him for answers, her patience fraying with each unanswered question. Her calls and messages grew more insistent, often arriving at odd hours. Erica's growing suspicion and Tara's increasing pressure began to form a dangerous triangle around Samir, a triangle that threatened to collapse violently. Despite his confidence, Samir began to feel the pressure. Tara was no longer a passive admirer. She demanded a future. Anika, silently observing, was no longer naive. Each of their actions chipped away at his carefully constructed facade. Even as he tried to navigate both worlds, the first real signs of instability began to emerge. The balance he had maintained so meticulously was unraveling. Secrets that had once seemed safely hidden now hovered on the edge of exposure. And in the quiet of Toronto's winter nights, the first cracks of a tragedy yet to come were already showing. As the winter deepened, the tension surrounding Samir Kapoor's double life grew more pronounced. Tara Mehra, no longer content with stolen moments, pressed for answers. She wanted a future, a commitment that Samir could never give. Each phone call, each message, each unexpected visit tightened the grip of pressure around him. The thrill of secrecy that once energized him now threatened to suffocate him. At home, Anika's intuition had sharpened into vigilance. Her notebook was filled with patterns and inconsistencies that painted a troubling picture. She observed subtle changes in Samir's behavior, the way he hesitated before answering certain questions, the long pauses during casual conversations, the restless energy that replaced his once calm demeanor. Though she did not yet confront him, she carefully tested the boundaries of his lies, asking questions in casual tones and watching his reactions. Samir, as always, believed he could control the chaos. He continued attending hospital events with composure, maintained the appearance of a devoted husband to Anika, and sneaked away to see Tara in secret. But the walls of his dual life were beginning to crack. Tara's growing insistence and Anika's quiet investigation were forces he had never reckoned with, and the collision of these two realities was inevitable. Tara, frustrated by the absence of commitment, began showing up unexpectedly near Samir's home, lingering in the hospital parking lot and asking colleagues probing questions about his personal life. She was no longer willing to exist in the shadows, and her obsession carried a dangerous edge, fueled by betrayal and the illusion of unreciprocated love. Meanwhile, Anika's observations became sharper and more methodical. She noticed the subtle shifts in Samir's routines, unexplained phone calls, altered work schedules, and moments when he seemed caught between worlds. The notebook in her dresser had become more than a tool. It was a record of betrayal, and each entry brought her closer to the painful truth she had long sensed but resisted acknowledging. In the hospital corridors, Samir's life continued its fragile balancing act. He was charming to colleagues, professional with patients, and affectionate with Tara. Yet behind closed doors, the tension built silently, a storm gathering strength. He was no longer invincible. The longer he delayed a reckoning, the more dangerous the consequences would become. By the time winter had settled fully across Toronto, the stage was set for an inevitable confrontation. Tara's growing impatience and Anika's growing suspicion formed two powerful forces, pulling Samir toward a breaking point. Every stolen glance, every secretive conversation, every lie meticulously crafted now carried a weight that threatened to topple the carefully constructed facade. The illusion of control that Samir had so skillfully maintained for months was slipping, and the night when everything would collide was drawing near. The tipping point arrived on a quiet winter evening. Samir had told Anika he would be working late at the hospital, a familiar excuse she had learned to accept without question. But that night, her patience had run out. Fueled by weeks of observation and careful notes, Anika decided she needed to see for herself. Bundling up against the cold, she drove to the hospital parking lot, her heart heavy with both fear and determination. It didn't take long for her fears to solidify. There, under the dim glow of a street lamp, she saw Tara Mera waiting. Her posture was restless, her eyes scanning the lot. Moments later, Samir appeared, his face softening as he approached Tara, a softness he had not shown Anika in years. In that instant, the pieces of her carefully ordered life shattered. Anika did not confront them. She remained in the car, frozen, her breath fogging the windows. Yet she did not need to hear the words. The scene before her revealed everything: Tara's agitation, Samir's attempts to calm her, the unmistakable intimacy between them. The illusion she had clung to for years, the perfect husband, the devoted marriage, crumbled before her eyes. When Tara stormed away into the night, Samir was left standing in the snow, a man whose control had begun to unravel. Anika drove home in silence, her mind racing, her heart hollow. Hours later, neighbors reported flickering lights in the Kapoor home long past midnight, voices raised, and the sound of a sharp crash followed by a heavy, suffocating silence. Inside, the storm that had been quietly brewing erupted violently. Confrontation, betrayal, and years of unspoken tension collided. Anika, heartbroken and furious, confronted Samir. Words quickly escalated into chaos, the emotional weight of deceit giving way to rage. What happened in that bedroom would shock the neighborhood and eventually make headlines, a tragedy that no one saw coming, born from secrets, obsession, and arrogance. By the time authorities arrived, the scene was harrowing. Furniture was overturned, shards of glass glittered across the carpet, and the once orderly home was transformed into a place of horror. Anika lay lifeless, the victim of a violent altercation. Samir, found nearby, claimed to be a victim of an intruder, but the signs told a different story. The stage had been set long before that night. It was the culmination of months of deceit, obsession, and emotional manipulation. For the neighbors, the revelation was shattering. The couple they had admired for years, the image of perfection, had been hiding a darkness that erupted violently behind closed doors. The winter night marked not only the end of a marriage, but the collapse of an illusion carefully maintained for years. As dawn broke over Toronto, the Kapoor home was transformed into a crime scene. Police and forensic teams moved carefully through the snow-covered neighborhood, their flashing lights casting eerie glows against the otherwise quiet houses. Inside, the chaos of the previous night was stark against the backdrop of a once warm home, overturned furniture, shattered glass, and the faint scent of incense mingling with the metallic tang of blood. Anika's body was gently covered with a sheet while officers meticulously documented every detail. Samir Kapoor, claiming to be a victim rather than a perpetrator, lay in a nearby hospital bed. Injuries that at first appeared serious, but upon closer inspection were inconsistent with a violent assault. Inspector Vikram Khanna, known for his careful, methodical approach, immediately sensed that something was off. The absence of forced entry, the lack of stolen items, and the concentrated chaos in the bedroom suggested a story carefully staged to mislead. The investigation quickly turned to Samir's timeline. Phone records revealed a series of frantic, heated exchanges with Tara hours before the murder. Messages showed her desperation and his attempts to control her, silencing her with vague promises and warnings. Security footage confirmed Anika had been in the hospital parking lot that night, witnessing the meeting she had long feared. The pieces began to form a picture. She had discovered the affair mere hours before her death. Forensic evidence deepened the case against Samir. Blood spatter patterns indicated that Anika had been attacked in close quarters, in a manner that suggested anger and intent rather than self-defense. The object used in the assault, a heavy item from the home itself, pointed directly to him, while his injuries were revealed as self-inflicted, designed to create the illusion of an intruder. Each discovery stripped away the layers of deception, revealing a man desperate to preserve his reputation even as he committed an unthinkable act. Meanwhile, Tara Mehra's sudden disappearance drew immediate attention. Phone and bank records tracked her movements out of the city shortly after the incident. Though she had not been present during the attack, her emotional involvement was undeniable. Investigators questioned her extensively, piecing together her role in the months of emotional manipulation and betrayal that had led to the tragedy. Ultimately, she was not charged, but her career as a nurse ended abruptly, and her life would forever bear the scars of her connection to Samir Kapoor's downfall. As Inspector Khanna assembled the evidence, the truth became impossible to ignore. Samir's carefully maintained double life, husband and adulterer, had collided violently, leaving a trail of devastation. The illusion of control was gone, replaced by the harsh reality that secrets, no matter how deeply buried, always have a way of surfacing. The trial of Dr. Samir Kapoor gripped the city. The polished image of the admired doctor, once respected by colleagues, patients, and neighbors alike, began to unravel piece by piece. The prosecution meticulously painted the portrait of a man who had lived a double life, deceiving his loyal wife while indulging in an affair he never intended to honor. Tara Mehra took the stand reluctantly, her voice trembling as she recounted the months of manipulation and deceit. She described how Samir had drawn her into a world of stolen intimacy, promising love and a future he had no intention of giving. Each testimony chipped away at the facade, exposing a man whose charm masked a dark, calculating nature. Forensic experts provided chilling details. Blood spatter patterns, the positioning of objects, and the self-inflicted injuries were all laid bare. The narrative became clear. Samir's acts were deliberate, driven by desperation to protect his carefully maintained image. The murder had not been a crime of passion, as he might have claimed. It was the violent climax of lies built over months. Anika Kapoor's meticulous notes and observations were presented as evidence, showing a pattern of deceit and manipulation. Security footage confirmed the confrontation in the hospital parking lot, proving that she had uncovered the affair hours before her death. Each detail revealed the calculated orchestration of Samir's lies, and the jury watched as the truth dismantled the man they had once believed to be above reproach. Throughout the proceedings, Samir attempted to maintain his composure, relying on charm and smooth responses. But the weight of evidence, combined with the testimony of Tara and forensic experts, left little room for doubt. His dual life, once carefully hidden, now lay exposed in its entirety. The courtroom fell silent as the verdict was read. Samir Kapoor was sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of his wife, with no chance of parole for 25 years. The fall from grace was absolute. The Kapoor family wept quietly, mourning not only the tragic loss of Anika, but also the betrayal that had destroyed the foundation of their lives. For the community, the trial became a lasting reminder that appearances can deceive. Patients, neighbors, and colleagues struggled to reconcile the caring doctor they had known with the violent, manipulative man revealed in court. The legacy of Dr. Samir Kapoor was no longer one of success or respect. It had become a cautionary tale of secrecy, arrogance, and the destructive power of living a double life. The verdict marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of a haunting legacy. Samir Kapoor's life of privilege, respect, and admiration had been replaced by the cold confinement of a prison cell. The silence of his new reality was a stark contrast to the warmth and control he once commanded in his home and at the hospital. Every day became a reminder of the consequences of lies, manipulation, and unchecked ambition. Tara Mehra, whose involvement had set part of the tragedy in motion, faced the aftermath of her own choices. Though never criminally charged, her reputation was irreparably damaged. Friends and colleagues turned away, and her career ended abruptly. What had begun as an intoxicating affair had left her life hollowed out, haunted by the knowledge of her indirect role in the devastating chain of events. For the community, the story of the Kapoor household became a cautionary tale. Neighbors who had once admired the couple now whispered of betrayal, deceit, and the hidden darkness that had thrived behind closed doors. Patients who had trusted Samir with their health struggled to reconcile the gentle doctor they knew with the man who had committed an unthinkable act of violence. The illusion of perfection had been shattered, revealing the fragile, destructive nature of secrets. Anika Kapoor's memory became a symbol of loyalty and courage, her notebook and observations a testament to the quiet power of awareness and truth. Her tragic end reminded everyone that devotion, while noble, can also make one vulnerable to betrayal when faced with calculated deception. Ultimately, the story of Samir Kapoor stands as a chilling reminder. No matter how carefully a life is curated, no secret remains buried forever. The consequences of arrogance, infidelity, and the denial of truth can cascade into devastation, destroying not only those directly involved, but everyone touched by the illusion of perfection. As winter faded and Toronto returned to its quiet rhythm, the echo of that fateful night remained. Lives were altered, reputations ruined, and a community forever scarred. The house that once symbolized harmony and success now served as a silent monument to the dangers of hidden desires, unchecked ambition, and the irreversible cost of living a double life. In the end, the truth had emerged, not gently, but with a force that spared nothing in its path. And for those left behind, the lesson was clear. Appearances may deceive, trust can be shattered, and secrets, once revealed, can destroy everything. Viewers, after hearing the tragic story of Samir Kapoor, Anika, and Tara, it's impossible not to pause and ask ourselves some tough questions. Why do people make choices that hurt the ones who love them the most? What is going through the mind of someone who betrays trust so completely? How do they justify their actions, even when the risk of being caught is so high and the consequences so severe? Is it selfish desire, an insatiable need for attention, or perhaps the thrill of secrecy that drives them? Do they not stop for even a single moment to consider the emotional damage they're causing? Or is it arrogance, the belief that their charm and intelligence can protect them from the consequences of their choices? Think about it. What goes on in someone's head when they risk everything for a fleeting moment of pleasure or validation? Do they even feel guilt, or do they numb themselves to it until it's too late? And for those of us watching, why do we feel so drawn to stories like this? Is it fear, curiosity, or the hope that we can somehow understand human behavior that seems so irrational? Now, viewers, I want to hear from you. If you were in Anika's shoes, how would you react after discovering betrayal? Would you confront it immediately, observe quietly, or walk away silently? And what about the person like Samir? How do you think someone can live a double life for so long without being caught? Do you think it's a matter of skill, luck, or just human nature pushing people to extremes? There's also Tara's side of the story to consider. Why do people get drawn into these situations even when they know it's wrong? What makes someone willing to ignore boundaries, social norms, and the obvious consequences of their actions? Is it love, obsession, or simply the human desire to feel special, wanted, or understood? These are not just stories, they are reflections of choices, consequences, and the human psyche. They make us question ourselves. Could any of us make similar mistakes if tempted or pressured? Could we justify our actions in ways that seem logical at the time, only to regret them later when the damage is irreversible? I want you to think deeply, reflect honestly, and share your thoughts in the comments. What do you believe drives people to live a life full of secrets and lies? Can betrayal ever be fully forgiven? And what lessons can we take from tragedies like this to apply to our own lives? If this story left you thinking, shocked, or even a little disturbed, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Share your perspective so we can learn from one another, discuss human behavior, and explore the complexities of trust, deception, and consequences. We'll meet you next time with another story that makes you question human nature, morality, and the choices we make. Until then, stay aware, stay thoughtful, and remember, appearances can be deceiving, and the truth has a way of finding its path no matter how deeply it's buried.